Discover miraculous peace, how Jesus transformed 12 hearts amidst the waves of life's storms. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, during the reign of the powerful rulers of the land, Jesus of Nazareth walked among the people of Galilee. He called forth 12 men, simple fishermen and humble workers, to follow him, leaving their homes, families, and the security of their lives behind. Today, as the sun dipped low over the Sea of Galilee, the disciples found themselves upon the shimmering waters, a sense of unease permeating the air as they rowed away from the solid land and onto the vast, reflective sea. Serenity surrounded them, yet their hearts were troubled. The muted laughter between them echoed the memories of miracles they had witnessed, the healing of the sick, the feeding of thousands with mere loaves and fish, and teachings that stirred their very souls. But today was different, as ominous clouds began to stretch across the horizon, dark like shadows encroaching upon their hearts. Then, without warning, the wind howled through their small boat, sending surging waves crashing against the vessel. Fear gripped them like a vice, panic surged as the men shouted over one another, "Master! Teacher!" They turned to each other, eyes wide with dread. "Do you not care that we are perishing?" In stark contrast to the chaos, Jesus lay peacefully asleep in the stern. His tranquil presence almost mocked the tempest that threatened to swallow them whole. They frantically shook him awake, desperation etched upon their faces. "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" The storm churned violently, yet Jesus' calm gaze pierced through their panic. He rose with deliberate purpose, his heart attuned to their fear. With power that transcended mere words, he lifted his voice above the storm, proclaiming, "Peace! Be still!" The moment the words escaped his lips, the wind ceased, and a profound silence enveloped the waters. The waves calmed, becoming as smooth as glass, reflecting the light of the dying sun. Awe filled the disciples as they stood in the stillness, their fear transformed into reverence. It was then that Jesus turned to them, his eyes searching their hearts. "Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?" His inquiry hung in the air like a challenge, igniting a flicker of conviction within their spirits. In the face of such divine authority, the very essence of their doubt bubbled to the surface. Amidst the storm, could he indeed be their refuge, their peace? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As the boat drifted into calmness, a weighty silence enveloped them. It was not only the absence of storm sounds but a deeper, unsettling silence that awakened something profound in their hearts. They were not just grappling with the storm outside but confronting a tempest of faith within. Would they choose to trust the one who had commanded nature as easily as it obeyed? What divine revelation awaited them in the coming days? The disciples did not yet know the fullness of the calling upon their lives, nor could they understand the path that lay ahead, marked by trials and revelations, winds of destruction and the unwavering power of the one who slept peacefully amidst their tumult. What lay ahead in their quest to follow him, and would their hearts, still murmuring doubt, find true faith in the face of such divine authority? As the tranquil waters shimmered under the light of a setting sun, the disciples sat in stunned silence, grappling with the magnitude of what they had just witnessed. They marveled at the one who had calmed the storm with mere words, their hearts now teetering on the precipice of belief. "What manner of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him?" whispered Simon Peter, his voice barely rising above the gentle lap of waves against the hull. Each disciple echoed a mix of awe and perplexity, a new understanding beginning to take root in their hearts. Their journey with Jesus had taken a turn, and the true nature of his authority was slowly beginning to unfurl before their troubled minds. With the sun setting in a blaze of crimson and gold, Jesus gazed at them, his countenance both gentle and commanding. "You have seen my power over nature, yet are your hearts far from knowing me?" he asked, penetrating their confusion. His question hung heavy, a divine probe into the depths of their faith. The echoes of his words reverberated within them, stirring longing, fear, and wonder. As the stars began to blanket the night sky, the group worked silently, their fear replaced by an electrifying awareness of his presence. Each man felt the call to a deeper faith, a faith that was not merely the absence of fear but the presence of trust in the divine purpose that was being unfolded. They rowed towards the shore, yet each was lost in contemplation of what lay ahead. Jesus, one with the Father, had just revealed a glimpse of his glory. How could they comprehend the fullness of his mission? When they finally reached land, weary but transformed, Jesus led them ashore. The air carried the sense of salt and earth, and the land which had felt so distant was now a homecoming. They were met by a figure that would shift the course of their destinies, a man possessed by demons, dwelling among the tombs, tormented so that no one could bind him, not even with chains. As Jesus approached, the tormentor recognized him immediately. "What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God?" the voice of the possessed man cried out. The disciples trembled at the sight. Darkness resided in this man's soul, yet his eyes reflected a flicker of recognition. They stood transfixed, witnessing the inevitable clash between light and darkness. Jesus commanded the unclean spirits within the man to depart, speaking with authority that left no room for doubt. "Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit," he ordered, his voice resonating with power and conviction. Instantly, a tumult arose. The man shrieked as the spirits convulsed within him, a chaotic scene of desperation. They begged for mercy, pleading not to be sent afar. With compassion mixed with unyielding authority, Jesus permitted the evil spirits to enter a herd of swine nearby. The animals, embodying the chaos of evil, rushed into the sea, drowning in their own despair. The miracle completed, the crowd that gathered marveled, yet many recoiled in fear. They witnessed the transformation of the possessed into a man made whole, clothed, and of sound mind. Yet still, apprehension lingered. What would this mean for their way of life? As the man sat at the feet of Jesus, fully restored, joy illuminated his face, a stark contrast to the darkness that had once consumed him. The disciples, witnessing such profound change, felt the weight of their own silent questions. "Return to your house and show how great things God hath done unto thee," Jesus instructed the man, and with fervent gratitude, he obeyed. The disciples understood that God's purposes were being woven through every encounter, every miracle, and as Jesus turned to his followers, his next words hung in the air, igniting their hearts with purpose: "You will see greater things than these." What would await them on their journey? Would they embrace the fullness of his calling, even as the shadows of doubt loomed? Thus began a new chapter, a divine unfolding of faith, power, and transformation, echoing the profound truth: the purposes of God are often not what we envision, yet they are always for his glory. As they ventured on, the path ahead lay steeped in mystery, and each step beckoned them deeper into the heart of his sovereign plan. As the dawn broke forth in radiant hues, the disciples' hearts were still heavy with the echoes of the night's confrontation. The man who once roamed the tombs in torment and despair had shared his story, igniting in them a flicker of hope. But the journey was far from over, and each disciple felt the weight of the mission ahead. Jesus gathered his followers, their faces illuminated by the soft, golden light of the morning sun. "We must go to the other side of the sea," he said, a spark of purpose igniting in his eyes. The wind lay calm, and the waves gently lapped the shore, a stark contrast to the tempest they had faced just hours earlier. Still, a holy tension filled their hearts as they climbed into the boat once more. The boat rocked gently under their weight as they set out, Jesus reclining at the stern, his head upon a cushion. Exhaustion washed over them, and they found solace in the presence of their teacher. The rhythm of the water lapping against the sides murmured a lullaby, coaxing weary souls to rest. Yet, an unspoken fear lingered in the depths of their minds, an awareness that the journey was fraught with uncertainty. As the boat glided across the tranquil waters, Jesus, though visibly weary, emanated a peace that seemed to envelop them all. His disciples spoke to one another in hushed tones, recalling the miracles they had witnessed, each recounting a different facet of power and authority that Jesus displayed. The stirring memories only deepened their longing for understanding, for the revelation of this one who commanded both nature and spirit. But suddenly, as if conjured by their uncertainty, a ferocious storm began to brew, dark clouds roiling overhead. The winds howled like a beast, and waves crashed against the vessel, threatening to capsize them. Fear gripped the hearts of the fishermen, seasoned souls who had navigated many storms. "Master, do you not care that we perish?" Simon Peter cried out, desperation lacing his voice as he shook Jesus awake. The Lord arose, standing amidst the chaos, and with authority that silenced the tempest within their hearts, he rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." The wind ceased, and there was a great calm that enveloped the boat and its crew. The disciples looked on in awe as the storm slackened, wondering at the display of divine power that was so intimately woven into their daily lives. "Why are ye so fearful? How is it that ye have no faith?" Jesus questioned, his voice both gentle and firm, the echoes of his inquiry pressing against their hearts. In that moment, they glanced at one another, fear replaced by a burgeoning realization here was indeed more than a man. They stood in the presence of the Holy One. A profound silence enveloped the boat as they began to comprehend his glory. "What manner of man is this," they lamented, their voices trembling, "that even the wind and the sea obey him?" In that grasp of divine revelation, they wrestled with their understanding of faith, truth, and his unwavering sovereignty. As they sailed on, questions lingered in the air like the scent of salt on their skin. Little did they know that their journey was only beginning, for the land ahead held challenges that would call forth their deepest fears and greatest faith. Jesus turned his gaze toward them, a knowing light in his eyes that held promises yet unveiled. "You will witness the hand of God move in ways you have not yet imagined. Greater things are still to come, and through these trials, know that I am with you always." The path ahead darkened with unknown perils, yet within them stirred a deepening trust. With every wave that beat against their vessel, the call to follow him grew ever clearer. What awaited them on the other side? What deeper understanding of his purpose would emerge from this storm-tossed journey? They stepped into the unknown, realizing that, indeed, the fullness of God's sovereign plan awaited their faith response. As the boat neared the shore, a sense of unease danced in the hearts of the disciples. The calm they had just witnessed was but a fleeting moment, and shadows loomed over the land they approached. The rugged cliffs rose starkly against the horizon, casting long shadows over the grassy hills, while cries of wild swine echoed faintly from the nearby cliffs, stirring curiosity and apprehension within them. Jesus stood at the bow, his countenance resolute. "We are here," he declared, and the disciples felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. What awaited them on this unfamiliar shore? As they disembarked, the ground beneath their feet felt foreign, the air thick with an unspoken tension. Before them, the region of the Gerasenes unfolded, a place marked by darkness and despair. They took cautious steps into this new territory, each disciple reflecting on the commands of their master, their hearts longing to comprehend the purpose of their arrival. Suddenly, from the tombs, a wild figure emerged, rushing towards them with a fierce cry. It was a man possessed by an unclean spirit, whose very existence was a reflection of torment. "What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?" he shrieked, falling before Jesus, his body writhing in the dirt. The disciples stood frozen in fear, gripping their belongings tightly, as they witnessed the struggle between light and darkness. "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit!" Jesus commanded with authority, his voice piercing the air like a trumpet. The man convulsed, and the demons within him protested violently. "We are many," they cried, "send us into the swine." Their voices were fragmented, laced with despair as if they knew their time in this realm was short. With a mere word from Jesus, the malevolent spirits exited the man, rushing into a herd of swine that grazed nearby. The pigs, overtaken by the fury of the evil spirits, plunged themselves into the sea, drowning in the depths. The air fell silent, the chaos receding as both disciples and observers took in the magnitude of the miracle. The once tormented man now liberated sat at Jesus' feet, clothed and in his right mind. The transformation was stark, a profound testament to the power of God's grace and mercy. The truths of Isaiah 61 verse 1 echoed in the hearts of the witnesses. "He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives." Yet, amidst the joy of healing, fear gripped the hearts of the local people. They came to see what had happened, witnessing both the freed man and the loss of their swine. In their astonishment and confusion, they begged Jesus to depart from their region. Their hearts had hardened, unable to grasp the significance of the liberation that had just unfolded before their eyes. "Go home to your friends," Jesus said gently to the restored man, addressing him with compassion. "Tell them how much the Lord has done for you, and how he has had mercy on you." The man, filled with joy and gratitude, obeyed immediately. As he departed to spread the news, a potent truth was sown into the fabric of that land. A testimony of divine intervention would echo through every valley and climb every mountain, igniting a wave of hope among those poised to listen. But as Jesus and his disciples prepared to return across the sea, a weighty question remained in the air: what other realms of darkness awaited his light? The waves still murmured secrets of storms yet to come, and in their hearts stirred the unfathomable awareness of God's sovereign plan in the echoes of the unseen. What other powerful displays of his glory would be revealed, and who else was destined to encounter this life-altering grace? As the sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the waters, Jesus turned to his disciples, who still lingered in contemplation. "Let us cross over to the other side," he instructed, knowing full well the journey ahead would challenge their faith yet again. The disciples, filled with weary hearts from the recent encounter, boarded the boat. As they set sail, the tranquil surface of the sea belied the tumultuous storms that often brewed beneath. Yet in the presence of Jesus, they felt a fleeting sense of security. As they sailed, the winds began to stir violently, whipping the waves into a frenzy. The skies darkened and the thunder rolled. The boat rocked perilously, threatening to capsize in the grip of the tempest. Fear gripped the hearts of the disciples, each man wrestled with his own doubt. "Master, Teacher," they called out in desperation, "do you not care that we are perishing?" Their voices cracked with anxiety, the atmosphere thick with dread. They had witnessed miracles, yet in this moment, their faith faltered amidst the fury of nature. Jesus awoke, his presence calm in contrast to the raging storm. With a simple command, he turned towards the sea. "Peace! Be still." His voice resonated with authority, a declaration that called chaos back into order, immediately causing the winds to cease and the waters to quiet. The disciples marveled at the astonishing power displayed before them. "Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" They whispered among themselves, their faith stretching in the face of revelation. They began to grasp the truth: he was not merely a teacher, but the very Creator upon whom all creation depends. Once more at peace, the boat sailed on, and the disciples pondered the implications of this miracle. Jesus turned to them with unwavering gaze. "Why are you so afraid? Have you still no faith?" His words penetrated their hearts deeply, challenging them to reflect on their understanding of God's sovereign control over creation. Arriving at the land of the Gerasenes once more, they were greeted by the same eerie silence that had marked their first encounter. Yet this time, the air hummed with expectation, as if the very ground was preparing itself for another display of divine power. Jesus stepped onto the shore, and immediately, a multitude of souls awaited: the tormented, the broken, and the hungry. Among them, a woman racked with an issue of blood for 12 long years approached. She pressed through the crowd, her heart desperate and her faith fervent. "If I may touch his garments, I will be made whole," she whispered to herself. As she reached out, her fingers brushed the hem of his robe. Instantly, a surge of healing flowed through her, her suffering suddenly gone. Jesus turned, feeling the power released, and asked, "Who touched me?" His disciples, perplexed, responded, "You see the crowd pressing around you, yet you ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus, knowing what had transpired, continued to seek the one who had reached out in faith. Fearful yet emboldened, the woman came forward, trembling, and fell at his feet. "It was I," she confessed, and as she spoke, her heart was healed through the compassionate gaze of Jesus. "Daughter, your faith has made you whole. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction," he declared, imparting to her not just healing, but a profound sense of belonging. The air was electric with the manifestation of God's grace, as the echoes of her testimony ignited hope in the hearts surrounding her. Each soul was poised to receive a miracle, for in the presence of Jesus, the boundary between despair and divine intervention was shattered. but even as the miracles unfolded, a message of urgency was carried from the house of Jairus, a synagogue leader in despair who fell at Jesus' feet. "My daughter is at the point of death," he pleaded, desperation lacing his voice. "Come and lay your hands on her, that she may be made well and live." In this moment of heart-wrenching need, yet again, they sensed the growing magnitude of God's plan. Could it be that through each desperate plea and miracle wrought, a greater revelation of His glory was about to unfold? What divine encounters awaited them next? And as Jesus turned to follow Jairus, the throng pressed closer, a living testament to the desperate human longing for hope. Each heart beat with palpable anticipation, yet it was in the journey itself that faith was to be tested anew. As they made their way through the crowd, the multitude swirled around them, each person bearing their burdens and desires. Amidst this sea of bodies, another plea arose, though quieter than the frantic calls that filled the air. There was a man who had remained hidden in the shadows, well aware of his own unworthiness. A leper, marked by disease and loneliness, approached them, a mere echo of hope shimmering within his heart. "Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean," he beseeched, his voice filled with humility. Jesus halted and turned towards him, his expression a tapestry of compassion. "I am willing, be cleansed," he said, and with that simple declaration, he touched the leper's hand. Instantly, the man was made clean, his flesh restored. The crowd gasped at this act of grace, their astonishment mingling with reverence. "See that you say nothing to anyone," Jesus instructed the man. "But go, show yourself to the priest, and offer for your cleansing those things which Moses commanded, as a testimony to them." The leper, now freed from the grip of his affliction, hastened away, but the ripple effects of this miracle strained the air with anticipation and faith. Yet even as they pressed forward, Jesus' attention remained fixed on Jairus, whose anxious heart beat with urgency for his daughter. "Master, she is dying," Jairus exclaimed again, desperation clawing at his voice. But as they moved deeper into the crowd, a sudden halt was met with a shocking revelation. The woman who had touched the hem of his garment now stood before them, her healing evident yet accompanied by fear and trembling. She had thought to remain unnoticed, but Jesus' pursuit demanded her public confession. "Daughter," he spoke gently, "your faith has made you whole. Go in peace." Her restored health became testimony not only of her healing but of God's willingness to embrace the lost and the broken, yet the urgency of Jairus' need surged forth anew, igniting a worry that flared within him like a burning ember. But before Jesus could take another step, a figure emerged through the crowd. The messenger's face bore the weight of sorrow and dread, and he approached Jairus with a whisper that shattered the fragile hope. "Your daughter is dead, why trouble the teacher any further?" His words pierced the heart of the father like a sword. Jesus, hearing these words, looked at Jairus and spoke with authority, "Do not be afraid, only believe." With those words echoing in the tumult of despair, they continued on, into the house where death reigned. Upon arrival, the mourners wept and wailed, filling the air with despair, but Jesus entered, unshaken by the mournful cries. "Why make this commotion and weep?" he questioned. "The child is not dead but asleep." Confusion and scorn filled the room, for they could not fathom the depths of the miracle that stood before them. With a heart steady and filled with divine purpose, Jesus took the girl by the hand, commanding, "Talitha koum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." And at the sound of his voice, life surged back into her body. The girl, barely past the threshold of childhood, arose and walked. Awe filled the hearts of all present, as they became witnesses to the power of faith and the profound depth of God's grace. In this moment, heaven touched earth, and the sovereignty of God was unveiled through moments of prayer, desperation, demonstration, and unwavering belief. For in every touch, every cry for help, and every act of faith, God's divine purpose unfurled, each miracle revealing not only His power but unveiling a greater mystery of His kingdom. Yet the question lingered in the hearts of those present: what greater work was God weaving in the fabric of their lives? What further display of His mercy and sovereignty was yet to come? As the girl took her first steps, a cascade of astonishment swept through the assembled crowd. The mourners who once filled the room with lament now stood in hushed disbelief, their sorrow transformed into wonder. Whispers of awe and incredulity danced through the air, threading through the hearts that bore witness to such a miraculous resurrection. Jairus, his heart leaping with joy, grasped his daughter, embracing her as tears streamed down his cheeks. My child," he whispered, his voice trembling with relief. The weight of grief that had threatened to crush him moments before was now replaced by a radiant hope, a hope that shone brighter than the darkest depths of despair. Jesus, observing the unfolding scene, turned his gaze towards the crowd. "Give her something to eat," he commanded gently, his words infusing warmth into the chilly shadows left by death. In this simple directive resided yet another testament to his care, a reminder that he attended to both the physical and spiritual needs of his beloved. As people scurried to fulfill his request, a new hush fell over the gathering, one of reverence mingled with lingering disbelief. The marvel of the moment enveloped them. The daughter of Jairus, once lifeless, now sat up with the exuberance of life restored, a living embodiment of faith's triumphant return. Yet amongst the jubilation, Jesus quietly departed the house, beckoning his disciples to follow him. He moved with purpose through the dispersing crowd, and whispers followed him like shadows. "Who is this man," they murmured, "that even death obeys him?" As they continued along the path, a blind beggar named Bartimaeus sat at the roadside, embodying the cries of those lost in darkness. Hearing the commotion, he inquired of the crowd, and when they told him that Jesus of Nazareth was passing by, his heart ignited with fervent hope. "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me!" he shouted, his voice punctuating the noise around him. The multitudes attempted to silence him, urging him to be quiet, but Bartimaeus, desperate for healing, only cried louder, "Son of David, have mercy on me!" Jesus halted, his heart responding to the cry of faith that rose above the noise of the crowd. "Call him," he said, his voice imbued with authority and compassion. The disciples hastened to Bartimaeus, urging him to come forth. "Take heart, get up, he is calling you," they declared, and with that, Bartimaeus threw off his cloak, sprang up, and went to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked, his tone gentle yet piercing. "Rabboni, I want to receive my sight," Bartimaeus implored, his spirit brimming with expectation. "Go your way, your faith has made you well," Jesus replied, and in that moment, Bartimaeus' eyes were opened, and he beheld the world in a way he had never known. His heart rejoiced, and he followed Jesus, praising God along the way, joining the throng that now praised the one who had transformed despair into light. As the crowd swelled around him once more, a subtle shift in the air suggested that the miracles were far from over. In the stillness between breaths, the deeper truth dawned: Jesus was not merely a healer of bodies but a mender of souls, weaving a tapestry of faith in the hearts of those who dared to believe. What greater journeys awaited them? What further revelations of His mercy and grace were yet to unfold? Thus, God's divine plan remained an ever-deepening mystery, a promise yet to be realized, a hope yet to be fulfilled, echoing through the generations to come. As the day began to wane, Jesus and his disciples made their way toward the shores of the Sea of Galilee, where a multitude thronged around him, eager to hear his teachings and witness the miracles that followed him. Each step resonated with the weight of expectation, for many sought not just healing, but a glimpse into the heart of God. "Behold, the Lamb of God comes to take away the sins of the world," a voice cried out from the crowd, reminding all who listened that this was no ordinary man. The disciples exchanged glances, sensing the gravity of the moment. In this throng, the hearts of many beat in unison, yearning for intervention, yearning for hope. In the distance, a man approached, fear etched upon his face. The multitude parted, recognizing that he was Jairus, the ruler of the synagogue, who had just witnessed the restoration of his daughter. His heart swelled again with the memory of the miracle, yet in the shadows, new despair took root. "Master," he implored, "my daughter is at the point of death. Come, lay your hands on her that she may be healed and live." As Jesus turned to go with Jairus, the crowd pressed in closer, a mass of desperation and faith, some seeking healing, others simply wanting to feel the warmth of his presence. But among them was a woman whose suffering had lasted years. She had spent all her livelihood seeking healing from physicians to no avail. Hearing of Jesus, she whispered to herself, "If I can just touch his garments, I will be made whole." With trembling resolve, she moved forward through the throng, her heart racing, each touch from the crowd a reminder of her anguish. Finally, with a faint yet determined reach, she laid hold of the edge of his garment. Immediately, a surge of power flowed through her, and the affliction that had tormented her for 12 long years evaporated as the crowd surged around them, unaware of the miracle that had just transpired. "Who touched my clothes?" Jesus asked, halting the procession. The disciples, bewildered by his question amidst the pressing crowd, looked around in confusion. "You see the multitude thronging about you, and yet you ask, 'Who touched me?'" But Jesus continued to scan the crowd, his eyes seeking out the one who had reached out in faith. The woman, realizing what had happened to her, stepped forward. Trembling, she fell at his feet and confessed her faith. "It was I, Lord. I touched you," she said, tears mingling with joy. "Daughter, your faith has made you well, go in peace, and be healed of your affliction," he said, his voice tender yet powerful, as he extended mercy and restoration not only to her body but to her very spirit. In that moment, a messenger arrived from Jairus' house, his expression grim. "Your daughter is dead. Do not trouble the teacher any further." The air thickened with tension, despair settling over Jairus like a funeral shroud, yet Jesus turned to him, eyes filled with unwavering faith. "Do not fear, only believe," he commanded, drawing Jairus into the realm of his possibilities, where death had no dominion and hope conquered despair. As they approached the home where grieving mourners wept loudly, Jesus declared, "The girl is not dead, but sleeping." The laughter that erupted was filled with doubt, but Jesus took the girl's parents and his closest disciples into the room. He took her hand and said, "Talitha koum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." And she rose at once, her heart beating once more, the promise of life unfurling within her. As the crowd exclaimed in awe and bewilderment, Jesus instructed them to give her something to eat. In his words, a divine assurance resonated, "In him, there is life." And in every miracle, in every healing, the deeper truth throbbed. God was revealing his sovereign plan through Jesus, weaving together his purpose in the tapestry of humanity. Who else among them, with hands outstretched and eyes filled with longing, would experience this staggering truth? What more would transpire? For as the promises unfolded, woven intricately with each miracle, the mystery of God's redemptive love beckoned all to look deeper into the heart of the one who holds time itself. As the echoes of amazement settled over the crowd, Jesus instructed the parents of the girl to keep the miraculous event close to their hearts, forbidding them to share it widely. He recognized the sacredness of their joy, an intimate moment that only they and he should fully comprehend. And as he left the house, the sun dipped lower in the heavens, casting a warm golden hue upon the land. The multitude, still buzzing with wonder, followed closely behind, seeking another glimpse of his glory. In their hearts, the swell of faith mixed with curiosity. Who was this man, and what more could he reveal? Crossing the threshold of the village, Jesus encountered two blind men who, hearing the commotion, began to cry aloud, "Have mercy on us, Son of David." Their voices pierced the air, desperate and relentless. The crowd hushed momentarily as they beckoned to Jesus, their sightless eyes filled with the hope that had eluded them for so long. "Do you believe that I am able to do this?" Jesus asked them, his gaze steady and penetrating. "Yes, Lord." They replied in unison, their voices trembling with anticipation. Here, in this moment, faith shone brighter than their darkness. "According to your faith, let it be done to you," Jesus declared, and in an instant, light flooded their vision as sight returned. They blinked against the brightness, tears of joy mingling with disbelief as they beheld the world anew. The landscape of their lives transformed before them, colors vibrant and shapes clear. But, Jesus warned solemnly, "See that no one knows it." He understood the weight of his miracles, a treasure too precious to be squandered among those who do not seek understanding, yet the joy of the healed blind men could not be contained. As they left, they spread the news of his power throughout the region, proclaiming his deeds with uncontainable joy. The whispers of him spread like wildfire through the towns and villages, hearts ignited with the hope of his presence. As Jesus continued his journey, they came upon a demoniac brought to him, a man bound by unclean spirits who lived among the tombs, his cries filling the night air. The darkness that surrounded him was palpable, a stark contrast to the light that radiated from Jesus. "What have you to do with us, Jesus, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" The spirits in the man shrieked, recognizing him as the Holy One. Jesus looked at the man, and with authority he commanded, "Come out of him, you unclean spirit." The man fell to the ground as the demons wriggled and writhed, the power of Christ breaking the chains of bondage. After a fierce struggle, the spirits departed, leaving the man trembling but free. When he stood, he was clothed and in his right mind, a testament to the salvation that Jesus offers freely to all who are lost. The crowd gazed in awe, the transformation before their eyes an embodiment of God's mercy. Yet, fear took root in some hearts, compelling them to plead with Jesus to leave their region, for his presence brought forth both miraculous change and the unsettling exposure of their own unfaith. As Jesus turned to leave, he cast a loving gaze upon the renewed man. "Go home to your friends, and tell them how much the Lord has done for you, and how he has had mercy on you," he instructed, for in every healing and miracle lay a deeper call to proclaim the goodness of God. And as the man obeyed, sharing the story of his deliverance, a ripple of faith ignited in the lives around him, sowing seeds of belief that would grow even in hard ground. Little did they know, a greater plan was unfolding, weaving together the stories of countless lives, each miracle revealing a glimpse of the kingdom yet to come. What other wonders would emerge from his hand? The question lingered in the hearts of those who witnessed his power, for the tapestry of divine purpose was still being woven, and God as sovereign will was not yet fully revealed. As the sun began to rise over the horizon, shedding light upon the land, a profound stillness lingered in the air, pregnant with expectation. Jesus and his disciples, emboldened by their encounters, moved through the towns preaching the good news of the kingdom. Each footfall resonated with purpose, each word that flowed from the lips of Jesus carried life. The miracles performed had kindled flames of faith in many hearts, yet uncertainty still lay heavy on others. One day, as Jesus taught beside the Sea of Galilee, a multitude gathered, drawn by the magnetic truth of his presence. They were hungry not just for bread, but for revelation, for healing, for the light that seemed to flow from him inexhaustibly. "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," he proclaimed, his voice rising with authority as he continued to teach, revealing the heart of the Father. Through his words, hearts were softened, branches that had borne only the fruit of doubt began to bloom. The disciples stood at his side, watching as lives were transformed before their very eyes. They marveled at how these very teachings reached deep into the souls of the people, answering unspoken questions and quelling fears that had long been buried. Then came the day when Jesus looked upon the 12, gathering them close as they remained in awe of the throng. "You have seen my miracles, yet there lies a greater journey ahead," he affirmed, speaking directly to Peter, Andrew, James, John, and the rest. "The time is drawing near for this mission to expand beyond what you can see. There are many who will call upon my name, and in their call, I shall reveal my glory." With a sense of commission, they understood their hearts would be called forth to lead, to witness, and to testify of his grace even unto the ends of the earth. Jesus felt the weight of the moment and resolved to set his face toward Jerusalem, knowing full well the trials that awaited. "I must go to suffer and die, yet be assured, on the third day, I shall arise," he declared, though their minds struggled to comprehend the fullness of his words. Their concepts of power and glory were bound to earthly understanding, and yet, the wave of divine light urged them to grasp a heavenly truth. In Jerusalem, their faith was to be tested as never before, and the shadows of betrayal loomed on the horizon. The disciples, filled with zeal yet gripped by fear of the unknown, would soon find themselves at the crossroad of decision. They would grapple with the reality of their faith amidst a splintering hope. Could they hold firm when darkness would appear to prevail? Days turned into nights, and the tension in the air grew palpable as the crowd's chants shifted from Hosanna to shouts of "Crucify him." But throughout this tumult, the loving gaze of Jesus remained steadfast, reflecting the heart of the Father, filled not with frustration but with profound love for all humanity. With arms stretched wide upon the cross, Jesus bore the weight of the world's sin. The earth trembled beneath him as he cried out, "It is finished." Those present could not fathom the magnitude of this utterance, nor the cosmic shift that marked the dawning of a new covenant. The veil was torn, and heaven's light flooded the earth, no longer confined to the temple, but accessible to every heart that would receive him. 3 days later, when the dawn broke, the world would never be the same. The stone rolled away, revealing an empty tomb. Jesus, alive. Hope burst forth like flowers in the spring, faith was resurrected where despair had reigned. The disciples, transformed from timid followers to empowered witnesses, realized their mission was not finished but had just begun. "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations," he instructed with authority, breathing upon them his Holy Spirit. "Baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." And from that moment, the ripple of God's love surged forth across the lands, igniting hearts and unveiling his sovereign plan. The transformed 12 would indeed witness greater things. Miracles unfolding through their hands, a living testament of grace that would reverberate through generations. As the Holy Spirit led them, they stepped boldly into their calling, preaching the gospel with fervency. Lives were changed, communities flourished, and the kingdom of heaven expanded through the obedience of those who believed. Thus, the God of the universe fulfilled his promise, unveiling a divine resolution that would inspire countless hearts. The final chapter of the disciples' journey began, nourished by the truth that the self-giving love of God persists, ushering all who believe from despair into everlasting hope. As you ponder the implications of this story in your own life, remember God's invitation is extended to you. Trust him with your own waves of uncertainty, for just as he transformed the hearts of the 12, he longs to transform yours. If these powerful biblical narratives resonate with you, do not wait. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you never miss another sacred story. Like this video now to help spread God's word through the algorithm. Comment your reflections and share how this testament has impacted your faith journey. And share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear the truth of Christ's love today. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Join us and be part of the wonderful work God is doing.